I'd like to call this meeting of the Show Low City Council to order. Show that all council members are present with the exception of Councilman Hatch, who has to be excused tonight. Welcome to 2026. Let's keep those prayers going for snow. Tonight, I've asked Councilman Judd to lead us in the invocation, followed by the pledge by Councilman Clark. If you'd all like to stand and join us, you may do so.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this opportunity we have to meet together this evening for City Council. We pray that Thy Spirit will be with us and guide us through this evening. We ask that Thou will bless us to make the decisions that are best for the city and will help us to come together and grow. We ask that Thou will bless our first responders, our police officers, military, our firefighters, and our healthcare specialists, that they can be watched over and protected. We ask for moisture at this time, that we can get some rain or snow to help us beautify our land and give us the moisture that we need. And we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Clark, Councilman Judd. Next item on the agenda is call to the public. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Any citizen desiring to speak on a matter that is within the jurisdiction of the City Council may do so at this time. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and shall be addressed to the City Council as a whole, not to any individual member. Issues raised shall be limited to those within the jurisdiction of the City Council. Pursuant to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the City Council cannot discuss or act on items presented at this time. At the conclusion of call to the public, individual City Council members may, 1, respond to criticism made by those who have spoken, 2, ask staff to review a matter, and 3, ask that a matter be put on a future agenda.
Thank you. I have a couple here. Mrs. Stone. Please state your name and address for the record. Come on up to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Karen Stone. I reside at 1370 East Pine Oaks Drive in Show Low, Arizona. I would like to know if there are any plans with Pinal County inviting ICE into the county and also Phoenix doing the same thing. Are there any plans in Show Low for that? If there aren't, will there be? If I should show up? That's my question. And thank you all for doing what you do.
Thank you. We'll give that to the city manager and he can get with the chief and find out status.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. McMillan? I did say that right, correct?
You did. Good job.
Wow. You could have wrote just a little bit smaller.
I'm surprised you're able to read it.
Me too.
My name is Angie McMillan. I reside at 8435 Deer Run Drive in Show Low, Arizona. My first question is, are you guys sworn to the Constitution and will you guys protect it? And on saying that, are you guys brave enough to stand up to ICE when they break the law? And on top of that, what will you do if ICE starts illegally kidnapping people and illegally detaining them? And also, do you think you should inform the community about the flock surveillance cameras and how they, and every vehicle getting put into an unsecured database? And if you plan to tell the community about that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We'll have the staff get a hold of you and explain that whole process. Next item on the agenda is special events, presentation of the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year 2025. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'd like to introduce from Hinton Burdick, our independent auditor, Chantry Jensen. He is a senior auditor with Hinton Burdick. He's been on our audit for several years now. He's been the audit manager for at least 2, maybe 3 years. and he's going to be doing our audit report for us. Would like to take a minute to thank Misha and the Finance Department and the Grants Department and all those others who were involved in the audit. It takes a lot of time and effort to round up all the data and the information, and I think we work well with Hinton Burdick, and we appreciate their efforts as well. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Chantry, who's joining us via Zoom. Hopefully. There he is.
You see me?
Can see you.
All right, let me adjust my camera a little bit. You can get a better look there. Let's share my.
Can you hear us okay,
screen.
Chantry?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, we'll get started with the presentation. Again, want to give our thanks to the Finance Department, Misha, Justin, and all their staff. This year was a interesting year with the turnover we had there at the city, changing staff around, and it was very well represented. I think we handled it very well. The city did a great job getting the information we needed timely, and really no complaints on our side with the city. So we love working with the city. I've been with Hinton Burdick for a number of years, been involved on the city's audit for quite a few years now, and just love working with you guys. So we'll get started. The main thing you probably want to know is, what opinion did we give? So if you look in your packet, on page 1 to 3 is our audit report, and we're pleased to present a non-modified report, or in other words, a clean opinion. That's an A+. You can't get any better than that. So that's fantastic. If you thumb through the rest of the financials towards the end, page 107, 108, looks like a little typo right there. We didn't have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies this year, and that's based on the report over internal control and financial reporting and on compliance. As far as state compliance, you can see that report on page 109. As far as the report on compliance for each major program, because the city did have another single audit this year, that also had an unmodified or clean opinion. So congratulations. We do, as we go through the audit process, we're always looking for ways to help our clients improve processes. And certainly if we see anything that's not compliant, we bring that to their attention. This was a reissued or reworded finding. I think it was similar last year, but with different funds. So here, this year, the debt service fund just had a little bit of a difference of 41,000, and then the streets light district special revenue fund also had a small difference of 15,000. Those can be explained by the finance department if you want more details on that. It's not a big deal as far as the audit goes, but it's just something that came up as we went through the audit. If you have any questions, feel free to ask as we go through the slides. A couple of highlights as far as the government-wide view of it. Total net position was 197,000. That's on page 13. Net position did increase by 14,580,000. And so over time, your increases and decreases are an indicator of the city's health. And so the city is healthy, and the trends are looking that way as well. So that's great. Kind of browse through a couple other items. Capital assets are a major part of governments. We had additions of 11 million, depreciation expense of 4 million. You can look at the tables in the financials on page 35 for that. A couple of significant additions, purchased some land, a couple of improvements. There's always equipment, seems like every year, which is normal. Not really any retirements for the year, which is fine. And for the business type funds, your water, sewer, there was about 3.3 million of additions, about 2.9 million of depreciation. various water infrastructure projects of 2.7 million. And then again, always equipment improvements tends to be just as things are maintained and improved on. So we'll talk a little bit about debt here. So the government is currently had, or this year, last year, FY25 had a net decrease of 627,000. A lot of that's just based on the schedules and the payments going out each year. Nothing too major to report there. Talk about the general fund. That is the largest fund of the city. So increased from the prior fiscal year, fund balance increased. And so that's great. Unassigned fund balance, about 130% of total general fund expenditures. So that's a pretty good measure. It did go down a little bit from FY24, but not that much. We also reported revenues in excess of expenditures of 8.6 million. And that's a little different than last year. And then actual resources received at about 8.7 million that were greater than the final budget, and then 21 million less than the final budget on expenditures. So budget-wise, doing great. We'll go through a couple slides here, a couple of graphs. So this is the general fund balance sheet, assets, liabilities, and equity. So you can see a nice positive trend move upward, which is exactly what we like to see and what we expect. General fund cash balance, again, going up about 2.4 million. Positive trend is what you'd like to see, so that's good. Revenues and expenses, similar trend. You can see the COVID years kind of made a little bubble, but other than that, looks like we're getting back on track with expected results. A couple revenue slides here. Sales tax revenue continues to climb. I think this was 6% increase, and it's about a 29% increase over the last 5 years. So a little stat for you. Other revenues, other tax revenues, this is your franchise and vehicle, your state sales tax, and urban revenue sharing. For some reason, the graph didn't quite pull those numbers up, but those are at the yellow and pink lines are actually increases. And just the urban revenue went down a little bit. Highway user fund, these are restricted monies. And so here we have total expenditures are more than total revenues, and that's because of the revenues coming in are restricted for certain uses. However, there's a lot of expenditures going out of that fund as well, so those are supplemented with transfers. Debt service cash trend. Last year there was some cash there. This year there's not, which is normal or pretty typical for prior years. You can look at last year's financials if you want to see more details on that. Go to the water fund here. This is total revenues and expenditures, not including transfers. And with water fund, it runs like similar to a business. So the fund charges services, and hopefully those revenues from those services are able to supplement the expenses to provide those services to the city. So you can see here the revenues are in a good trend. The expenses are in a good trend as well, so that's good. The water fund can support itself. Just as the cash here for the water fund, little dip in 24, but came back, rebounded in 25. Go to the wastewater. A little bit tighter of a gap, but still a good trend. So it's able to collect those revenues and pay for those expenditures as needed to provide the services to the city. And wastewater cash took a little bit of a dip, but variances aren't unreasonable for cash balances. So we'll look at the internal service fund. This is one that I might defer to Misha. She'll have a little more details on if you'd like to know more. You can see the COVID years, things were a little bit different. And now that we've gotten out of COVID, the numbers have reverted. So we're having revenues of less revenue than we have for expenditures. A lot of that is due to the demand or the claims and the activity for the year. But that's something that she does have answers for if you'd like to know more on that. And here's the cash for the health insurance fund. Again, it's got a healthy cash reserve. So there is cash there. You're not losing money. You have cash there. Just the way the revenues and expenses are running are a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. And then I believe this is close to the end. This is just major fund balances for major funds. So our general HERF debt, internal service, water, and waste water. So pretty comparable to last year. Nothing too unexpected. The city's been doing a great job as we run analyses through the audit, especially with the water and wastewater funds. Things are looking good there, and that's what the graphs are showing. So again, we just want to thank the staff again. It was a tricky year with the transition, but we got through it. And we're really excited with next year, working with Misha and her team. She's got a lot of great ideas, and it'll be fun to see how we can turn a lot of things around and keep improving on the city. So, does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. Anybody get Vice Mayor?
On our sales tax revenue, I noticed that there's an increase there. Can you tell us what the areas of increases, what are the major areas that we see the increase in?
Yeah, I'll defer to Misha on that first, and then I'll add any if she. Let me go back to that slide. Was it this one? The other tax revenues?
Our sales tax revenue is based on what is purchased within the city. That's a flat 2% rate. It just says that we have more business in the city of Show Low this year. That's a simple answer. More people coming here, more businesses available, so people are buying more, and that sales tax comes back to us.
Are we seeing an increase in like car sales and those kinds of things? Is that?
To get an actual breakdown, I'd have to go and research, but we can do that. We can give you breakdowns of which areas have increased.
I also want to make a comment about our health insurance fund. When I worked at the city, that we implemented that self-funding program, and I'm really proud of what you guys have done with increasing that. And BIGMI has done a really good job in advising us and increasing that fund so that we're really healthy in our self-funded health insurance program. So good job.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Justin, did you have anything closing?
Just an addition on the sales tax. We did add the bed tax, which boosted that total. But with the tariffs and the cost of goods sold, that's part of it too. But so some of it's activity, some of it is just the cost of things going up. But we didn't see a trend in a particular area. Retail, restaurants, construction, everything was up a little bit. So it wasn't like a spike in one area. Yeah, you're welcome.
You know, I like the idea of maybe breaking that down more because I'm curious what the bed tax is doing too. So
Sure.
if we can get that whenever.
Okay.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, where we'll do consideration of resolution number R 2026-01, consideration of acceptance of well 4 emergency repairs, consideration of acceptance of well 13 repairs, consideration of the minutes of the Show Low City Council meeting on December 9th, 2025. Does anybody want to pull anything or talk about it, or a motion? Got a motion by the Vice Mayor to accept the consent calendar as read, seconded by Councilman Adams, all those in favor? All those opposed, motion passed unanimously. Next item on the agenda is consideration of acceptance of updating program for the Sholo Sports and Event Center and programming stage estimate. Hang on, I got to switch pages. Sholo project number FM 4625, Mr. Hempsaw.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At its regular meeting on July 15th, the City Council awarded a pre-construction contract to Hayden Companies LLC for the Sholo Sports and Event Center. The scope of the work for this contract is the first phase of the design-build contract for the facility. Over the past few months, the design team has been working to identify the possible programming elements of the facility. A public comment open house was held on September 16th, followed by a City Council meeting to discuss possible additional items that may be included in the final building programming. Based on that direction, the design team has finalized the initial programming for the facility. We had a chance to review that a little bit in December. The Hayden Architect 4-line studio team are here to present the review of the final programming document, including the review of the programming phase cost estimate for the facilities and items included. With that, I'll have the team come up and give you an overview.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. All right, so to reiterate, we obviously presented the updated programming design of the facility back in December. So I'm just going to briefly go through that, a very quick recap before I turn it over to Fritz to kind of run through the numbers and kind of spend most of our time talking about the budget. So as you can see here, we have our site that's been identified off of Wolford Road and between Wolford Road and Lewis Street to the east of the residential development located on Sholo Bluff. The building is located to the southeast corner of the site, having a 4-sided orientation for the main entrance on the northeast corner, with the main entrance into the site off of what is called Road X. That is a road that will be named in the future. The majority of the parking is off to the north, kind of facing the entry of the building, and additional off-site parking will be provided either to the east or to the south to maintain the required parking calculations for the facility. And what you see here is the first floor plan of the facility. You can see the entry is located here in the northeast corner. The 500-person meeting room is centralized here off the north that opens up to the entry plaza. The large commercial kitchen is in the southwest corner, or northwest corner, excuse me. And then the 6-court gym facility makes up the majority of the rest of the building, with bathrooms and facilities on the core outside, in addition to storage as well. There is a second-level mezzanine for walking track that surrounds the gym, that is connected by obviously required stairs and elevators and some additional breakout space for stretching and other activities for the community on the second floor. So we're going to run through just a couple of the still shots that we reviewed back in December. This is a view of from the northeast corner, kind of the front entry of the building coming from the future commercial development to the east. You can see it's got a large covered entry to make sure that both during summer and winter that entry and queuing experience is enjoyable. And then you can see that lobby area in the back. As we kind of rotate around to the south west, this is located at the roundabout that will be located at the Wolford Road and future Road X intersection. You can see that we've opened up the corner here of the building with as much glazing as possible to really help elevate that corner experience and the aesthetic of the building from the street. Rotating now towards the southwest corner, you can see this is kind of the view from Wolford Road as you're coming from the 260 with the access to the secondary vehicular access here to the left and Wolford Road to the right. And using the landscape and architectural features to provide as minimal impact to the neighboring community as possible. And here's a view from the north coming from the majority of the main parking lot, again, looking straight into that entry plaza that we talked about earlier. And you can see the kind of form of the building that we talked about last time, mimicking a lot of the geological and natural features that we're trying to highlight with the architecture. And here is kind of a raised up aerial version with that entry plaza located here. The main gym volume is located in the back here along Wolford. Here you can see here's that roundabout again on Wolford Road with Road X. again, reiterating that opening of the corners to really help provide that, inviting feel off of the main community access. Rotating to the west, southwest, again, off of Wolford, adjacent to the residential district. We are, again, opening that corner as well to make sure that every side of the building is treated with visual interest and architectural integrity. And lastly, the last corner, you can see our back of house spaces, a private entry plaza space that will be accessed from inside and secured as required, and then obviously the majority of the parking lot there. Any questions before we move into the numbers?
Okay. I just click on this? How do I get this? Oh, it's it. Okay. All right. So right now, we were in front of you about a month and a half ago and talked about some of the features of the project that had grown from the original proposal to the I guess a concept. And from that concept, we were a little over $50 million. In the meantime, we've gone from the concept stage to a program stage. So what we're doing there is we're taking the requirements that SFC has given us for the functionality of the gym and then the functionality of the kitchen, some of the wishes of the community for the meeting space, and some of the other public spaces, and then wrapping all of the other spaces, the supporting spaces and things like that around them. We're also adapting the project to the new site. If you recall, we moved from the site across the street to the site north. So all those things, we worked through the preliminary design, and we've kind of baked it into the design that Chris just shown you. In the process of doing that, we've updated the budget to reflect the scope that we have currently reflected. And Chris has kind of broken it out here. For construction's about $47 million. Design and pre-construction is about $4.7 million. There's about an 8% contingency, about $3.5 million. And then we have an allowance of FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That would be purchased by the city. That's included in the overall $56.4 million budget. We've already approved, the council's already approved a little over $4 million that comes out of that design and pre-con. The rest is would be what we call construction administration. And we also have an increase in design costs because the overall program for the project has increased and the overall value of the project has increased. So we are up a little bit from the last time we met. And so I want to talk about a couple areas that we've seen that happening. Chris, how do I get this? Okay. Technology. All right. So one of the larger impacts is the building is a little bit bigger than what we had originally anticipated. I think we talked about a building that was around 110,000 feet, and we're up around 120 plus. We are looking at ways to squeeze that down. That's really driven by the size of the 6-court gym and the spaces that we need around that in order to have the functionality. It's not just 6 courts, it's also getting the people around them and being able to run tournaments. So as that gym grows, the whole building grows, including the queuing spaces, the capacity spaces for the facility, and then adapting the requirements for the kitchen and some of the other areas that went into the project. We are looking at ways to try to cut some of that out. I don't think we can get all the way back because of the demands of the gym and the functionality of that gym. We are looking for ways to try to reduce that size, and that will bring the cost down a little bit. In this program, we felt that it was important in the lobby area to bring some natural lighting in, so we added some skylights that weren't in the original concept. We have included a generator and a fire pump, and this really goes to the code usage of the building. If we use it as an event space for 4,700 people or so, then we have to have what they call a standpipe system, and that standpipe system has got to be fed by a fire pump, which has got to be backed up by a generator. So this is kind of a cascading thing. So I think we're in negotiations with the fire chief on that. We're talking to the fire chief about that and about whether that's required for the usage of this building. Of course, obviously, we're going to follow the code and do what's proper and safe. But this is the upside cost for that, and we will see if we can't bring that down somewhat too by sizing that equipment. One of the things that the design team felt was really important was kind of integrating the interior and the exterior of the building and kind of softening up the look of the building. And so we proposed a wood soffit that's, as you're walking into that big entry, if you look up, we would have a wood soffit that on the exterior of the building that carries into the interior. It's a very nice feature. There's lots of different ways we could do that. Design team wouldn't like it, but we could do nothing. We can use other materials. Right now, we've proposed a wood material. It is a pretty large upgrade to the project, and that was about $750,000 of that cost increase. As I said, the program grew, so the design grew about $300,000. We're proposing a plaza that, again, it kind of ties the parking lot to the building and the entry plaza area. So the main drive is all concrete paving. So there's some functionality there as well. It plows off better in the snow. It'll all hold up better to the traffic that goes through the front. That was an increase in cost, though, on the overall program. Championship court, we're using a full, what we call a full overlay court for the championship court. Instead of trying to stripe the championship court onto the top of the other 6 courts, we're using a wood basketball court that we'll store, that we can bring in and set up on top of the existing court. So it's better playability. It works better because you don't have all the confusion in the lines and things like that. We have an all-weather cover over the loading dock area. That's something that we hadn't proposed earlier. The team felt that was important for service and functionality as well. We got the requirements and spent a lot of time working with SFC for the kitchen equipment and the size of the kitchen. So we put together a program for the kitchen and priced that equipment out with a kitchen equipment vendor, and it came out $500,000 more than what we had carried in that initial budget. Now, I will say that one of the things we're going to do is have a follow-up meeting and try to downsize that kitchen and pull some of that equipment out of there and maybe future-proof, put in some capacity for future equipment, and try to bring that kitchen equipment budget down, shrink that kitchen a little bit. And then I don't remember what these initials are for, but this is basically a public safety radio repeater system. It's something that could be required in the building. There's a provision in the code that says that once the building is built, we have to go in and test it and see whether the radios for first responders work in all areas of the building. And if they don't, then we have to put this repeater system in it. So this may or may not be required. It may or may not be something that the code authority or the fire department requires, but we built it into the budget for now in case that needs to be included. So that's about a little under $5 million worth of added scope. And so that really, do we have another? That really kind of accommodates or accounts for where we saw some increase in cost. So we are working now, we are at the program stage, fairly early stage of the project, and we're going to basically looking to go to schematic design stage where we really take this design and flesh it out and begin to understand exactly how the building goes together and all the systems and things that go in it. And hopefully as we do that, we can reduce some contingencies and tighten this thing up a little bit. Now, it is conceptual at this stage, so there's always a possibility that as we go through the process and decisions get made, that scope could be added to the project, and we have to have this discussion again about where we are with the budget. So,
Fritz, I have probably one question for sure.
Sure.
The building size since December to now, explain that to us a little bit.
Well,
Why it went up almost 2 million from the last meeting.
we added about the build when we had originally conceived of a building of about 85,000 feet. And if you recall, we came back and said, in order to meet the program for the basketball courts and the 4,700 seats and everything that we wanted to do, we felt the building needed to be about 110,000 square feet. When we actually sat down and laid it out, and laid out the court the way that the consultant is asking us to build the courts, and then wrapped all the supporting spaces around it, we ended up at about 120,000 feet. So it's just bigger building, cost per square foot. That's
it's just a straight math thing. When we were at the previous stage, we were conceptual. We were dealing with not tight, and we hadn't laid the whole thing out and tried to figure out how it worked. And the building looks quite a bit different than what we had conceived it because of moving it to the other side. How are we going to bring people in? How are we going to queue them outside of the conference rooms or the multipurpose rooms? How are we servicing the basketball courts and how all that fits together? So when we put all those pieces together, and Chris could probably do a much more eloquent job of this than I am, but when we put all those pieces together, we ended up with more square footage in the building than what we had anticipated. And in that, so basically what I did is I said, well, our building is running about, say, $250 a square foot, and maybe we're not paying that increase in building size. We're not paying another $250 a foot for that increase in square footage, but we're paying something because the building is bigger. And the corollary to that is if we can make the building smaller, we can reduce cost as well.
May I?
Vice Mayor.
So on the building size, as well as the championship court numbers, I'm assuming that you did some analysis in regards to the offset for the different programs that we can put in there that would offset that cost.
Yeah, I mean, basically, as I said, the part of the biggest driver is the size of those courts, because this building really just wraps around the 6 courts. And so as those courts get bigger, you can imagine that we have to have a hallway that serves that space, an entry hall that gets bigger. And the bathrooms, we end up with more bathrooms, and the bathrooms get a little bigger because of the occupancy, which is driven by the size of the building. So it's a cascading effect. So in order to meet the program, we had to make the basketball court bigger, which drove the building bigger. And then one of the things that SFC told us was that it was really important that we have this overlay championship court in order to bring in the level of games that you want to bring in. If we tried to do it, the less expensive way with a painted overlay, the tournaments wouldn't like that, or the championship games wouldn't like that.
Thank you.
Quick, I'll jump in there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And real quick, I don't know if you guys remember back in September when we started talking about this program and it adding scope, and the gym size really grew because we had the 6 volleyball courts on the 6 basketball courts. And in order to get those bigger tournaments and really get that drive to bring tournaments here, a lot of them spin those volleyball courts 90 degrees. So now we get 12 of those volleyball courts on those 6, and that kind of grew. All the backstops had to get bigger on those volleyball courts, and that's really where that size grew on the actual gym size.
So I remember that because when you first had it out there, there was no seating for anybody to watch anything. So it was kind of weird that they were seating up the middle. So I understand that part. I was just shocking how much bigger. But you're right, Fritz. When you start adding, you want a big enough place for people to watch for sure. When you start adding a little bit, here goes the building again. So
Yeah, and I'll just add one more thing to that is, when, as Shane mentioned, when we were here in September, we approved to go to the 6 and 12, which added square foot to the gym. And all of those ads that we kind of approved back in September to get to the 50 million, that was based on kind of individual room sizes. And as Fritz said, when we laid everything out, it was really in those kind of accessory spaces that feed off of that added that extra 10,000. And then again, that's just based on, we have a block we have to work around, and we have bathrooms around it and the lobby around it. And that's where most of that square footage came from. And so we are looking at the reduction here. We probably could get not easily, but without sacrificing too much, around 2,000, 2,500 square foot out. Anything more than that is probably going to start to really hamper the functionality of the facility. But that is kind of where we're at this point with that study.
and listening to this, each week, and there's a lot of, I guess I look at it a different way. I see this we want all this. I think of this at my own house. I want all this done, but now we got to do what we really need. And it's just, and I get it. I wish it was, I just wished it had a 4 in front of it. That's my brain working. And I get it, because we don't want to build something in 10 years from now where we're talking about we need to upgrade or build more or add on. And I didn't really understand the championship court process for it, so I appreciate that. I didn't know that. Is that something that we're bringing up? Is it college tournaments up here. I don't understand that. Of all the tournaments I've gone to, not much basketball, but I've never seen them bring in another floor. So that's obviously something new that's out there. So I think it's something that we definitely have to start buckling down. And I know we've talked about this. We're getting closer, but the kitchen. I have a heartache for the kitchen. I know we're trying to feed. I don't know if we are, but when you look at the design of it, we're trying to feed 4,000 people. I'm not sure if we need to feed. That's what it looks like to me when you look at that kitchen. So that was something that really caught my attention on the size of it and the equipment in it. It almost needs to be a full-time kitchen to me. It should be open 24/7, 7 days a week, which is not going to happen. But Vice Mayor.
Chris, if you would you kind of describe the functionality of the dock cover as well as how the championship court works and what that means to us as the functionality that we are looking to get, as well as the building size. We need these things, and I don't want to do a project that we're spending this much money for and get 3/4 of the way there and wish that we went 100%. So
Sure.
if you'll explain those things so we understand why we need to go this direction.
Sure. So on the dock cover, again, there is a loading dock on the west side of the building. There is 2 bays, one for a semi truck and one for a panel van for deliveries to the facility. And also the semi is primarily there for large events, for future proofing it for large events. Typically, especially with the weather that we're hopefully going to get here right soon, providing a covered space for that is definitely preferred and recommended to make that process easier and to attract, to help attract those events. Is it 100% required? No, it's definitely something that we could remove and still doesn't necessarily impact the functionality of the facility. It is something though that just from a performance and facility standpoint, we would recommend if possible. In terms of the championship court, I don't necessarily have the ability to speak to that. I would lean more on SSC. I'm not sure. I knew they were maybe going to be on the call.
Yeah, I'm here. This is Mike.
So I would lean on Mike and the SFC team to explain the importance of having that separate championship court and the value that brings to the facility.
Good evening, everyone. The championship court can be achieved in a couple different ways. As was shown on the drawings, having a portable overlaid court is the premier experience. What we found is unless that is a targeted audience and there is a built-in program for people to come and use that on a regular basis, it gets very labor intensive to bring back and forth. And that particular per square foot for a portable flooring is more expensive than the standard wood court that would be for the other 6. Championship courts are important for the tournament space because, you always boil down your bracket to the final 2 games and you want to give them a little bit of an elevated experience for that game. But that could also be achieved by designating one of the 6 existing courts as a championship court. That could also be done using 1 or 2 of the sets of portable bleachers, depending on the way it's oriented, and some ways to achieve that with some cost savings versus the portable court in the middle. The one benefit, although at the added cost that the portable court in the middle gives you, is the additional horseshoe seating with retractable bleachers. So if you do want to court call it like a Harlem Globetrotters type event or something like that, they can come in on that championship court and have a larger ticketed audience to come in and support that. Those events are typically once per year at best, so it would have to be more than that one event to justify the reoccurring labor and cost of the stuff. But there are multiple ways to achieve a championship court, which we still feel is very important to the venue.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I assume that the championship court would be stored on site. We're not going to store it off-site, right? And my question is, how much storage square footage do we have, if you know that? And then how much space is this approximately going to take up?
So the total number of storage, I believe, did we list it on here?
I think
did.
6,000.
7,214 square feet on the ground floor, which is broken up into the main storage area here, which is off the loading dock to the west, and then 2 accessory storage spaces that sit behind the retractable seats. I do not know what percentage of that is dedicated to the championship. We do have that broken down in the program and document, so I'd have to look at it, but I don't have that off the top of my head.
Anybody else, any questions or comments?
Only comment I have, Mayor, is kind of like what you said with the kitchen. Seems there's something, I don't know, seems like a lot. Kitchen.
So what's the process from here? I know you said you're tightening things up from here. What do you mean?
Well, to use the kitchen as an example,
Right.
we have a focus meeting. Basically, we responded to the data that we got from SFC on recommendations for the kitchen and designed a kitchen around those parameters. But I think it warrants more discussion about what the true functionality of the kitchen and the capacity of that kitchen. And so we have a focus meeting set up to go through that with the kitchen equipment vendor or designer and the people who are going to use the facility so that we can dial that in. So I got to believe it's going to, especially if we're aiming to reduce the amount of kitchen equipment, that's going to net a reduction in cost. You know, like Chris mentioned, we're trying to tighten up the building. And so we're going to try to cut some square footage out of it, and hopefully that'll save us some money as well. So the next step really is to advance the design to the schematic design level and to refine the design so that we understand the building better and so that we can have a more accurate look at what the costs are going to be with an eye on at least staying where we're at and not growing anymore and reducing costs if possible.
I guess we really council really needs to decide on that list, that $4.7 million want list that you guys just brought to us. Is it all needed? If we cut any of that, are we cutting the functionality of the building? Probably not, but is it something we might need later down the road? And let's not, like Vice Mayor, I don't want to cut corners either. We want a nice facilities, especially for our community. I know it'll be well used, so. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Yes.
I'll just make a statement. I think that, that when you look at that list, if we have to, let's say we build this, and if history is any indicator of when we build something, we usually build it, and we're at capacity almost when we build it, and, we grow into things, and it's like 4 point, I don't know, what was that, Shane? What was the final number on that punch list?
4.7?
4.7. It's like, what's that going to cost us 5 years after we open it to go back in and put those in? It's almost going to be at least
4.8.
double. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like anytime we've had to go in and expand something, it seems like it costs us at least twice as much. So
I agree.
for me, it's like all of the indicators, especially from the auditor, just, at the first part of the meeting, everything's trending this way for the city of Show Low. No indicators for us right now that says that that's not happening, and we have our experts on the phone from SFA who's telling us that if we build this, they will come, and this will really transcend us as a destination place for sports tourism. Even if there's a hiccup in the economy, whether you're all the economists at our economy where it's going to be in the tank when Trump started doing tariffs and stuff, and that's proven to be faulty. But so if you believe one side or the other, one thing that is recession proof is sports for youth. And so even if, a recession occurs, people still want to get their kids out. They still want to provide those things. And so for me personally, I look at it as let's build the best one possible. We've engaged, the best team possible that we could, obviously being constrained by state procurement laws and stuff like that. And so we've been able, we're getting the expert advice that we need, and all indicators indicate that we should, build it right the first time. People will come. I mean, Maricopa County is what, the fourth or fifth largest county in this country. Phoenix is the sixth largest city, and they're growing exponentially, and we're a bedroom community of that. So for me, it makes sense to build it the right way the first.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you, guys. Appreciate everything. I can tell you just from experience, watching these guys work each week, sitting in on those meetings, I don't say a whole lot because it's kind of overwhelming, but I think you're right, Councilman Clark. We do have the best team on this for sure. A lot of confidence in these guys. Anyway, moving to the next item on the agenda.
Mayor, sorry, there's a.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I have a motion?
I do. I move to approve the updated programming conceptual design for the Shola Sports and Event Center and the programming stage cost estimate, City of Shola project number FM 4625.
Got a motion, second by Councilman Adams. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Trying to rush this meeting for some reason. Next item on the agenda, discussion of and consideration of improvements on the Huning House located at 100 North 11th Street. Mr. Himsaw. Thank you, guys.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At the October 1st, 2025, during the City Council retreat, staff reviewed options for the development of the downtown parcels near the City Library along 11th Street. The downtown parking lot project has been completed, and further improvements are being considered in the area. Landscaping with grass, pavers, concrete are preliminary suggestions to create a downtown plaza area to be enjoyed by our citizens. A public restroom, as well as a large ramada structure for gatherings, is also planned. The existing structure on the property has aged and will need to be removed or relocated to be preserved due to the requirements in the city's floodplain management code. Staff investigated options for the removal or relocation. If the City Council would like the structure removed, staff will include the demolition of the building with the restroom project expected to bid this spring. A conceptual layout on what the future improvements would look like has been provided. Staff also reached out to Area State House Movers and Enterprises Incorporated to investigate relocating the structure to a new location and to provide proper height required by the floodplain requirements. A proposal to lift the building and place it on a new 2-foot-high stem wall closer to the southern boundary of the property was provided. The cost to lift and relocate the structure and provide a new higher stem wall is approximately $77,000. That cost only includes relocating the structure. In order to get the structure in a condition to rent or utilize, the following additional improvements would need to be completed: asbestos removal, new plumbing, new electrical, and complete internal and external remodeling. To identify the cost for the remodeling improvements, staff would need some direction from City Council on future use of the building, for example, restaurant or offices, etc. Staff seeking some direction to move forward with the disposal of the existing structure or scope of improvements and budget to consider for remodeling. I think we attached a couple of just conceptual designs of downtown with the structural there in place, with it removed, or if we pulled it to the south. These are just schematic, just showing some plaza areas, ramada, and grass pavers, etc. And those are provided. I'm here for any questions.
Just a quick comment. I definitely like the idea of keeping it and moving it toward the south. I think that gives us better use of that land. What we're going to do with it, I have no idea. I mean, I just see it, if we're going to open up to the public, we got a lot of remodeling to do, right?
Right.
If we put anything in there, little store or trinket shop or do nothing, is that, I mean, you're looking for direction on what to do.
For direction.
It's a tough decision when you're sitting here and, to try to make a decision on what to do with the house. I don't want to see it tore down now that it's movable. So I like that idea, and I like the idea of moving it toward Huning so we can open up that park a little more. So that's my opinion. I know the other one was kind of more almost where it's at, I believe.
Right.
So, Vice Mayor.
Obviously, this is a extremely personal issue to me. I grew up there. My father grew up there. My father grew up there in that little tiny space with 12 siblings. Been there forever. My granddad was there, and my great-grandfather, James Clark Lawrence, had the original mercantile store on Huning, right next to that building. As we discovered this space and tore off the back of that building, we found a well. It had been abandoned, and I didn't know it was there. But I lived there, and the house is very primitive. Not something that a lot of people enjoy with their homes today, but it was what we had when I was growing up. There was an apple orchard there that existed alongside that well, as well as the mercantile. I had 8 siblings there, and it's a very small structure. So, yes, I would like to see it restored and kept. But I understand that it's not a building that is of extreme value like the Reed Head home. It's not something that is that far in history, but I'm sensitive to that. But it was my childhood home, and I would like to see it restored. I leave that to the rest of the council.
Councilman Adams, you have?
I'd like to see us restore it. It's got a lot of history. It's the old downtown. It was in front of the old main street there. I'd like to see it kind of turned on Ewing also. What to do with it? I have some ideas, things we could do, make it useful. But I think restoring it, there's not many of these old structures in town left. This one was in good shape. I was there when I looked at it. I'd like to see us restore it and move it, and we can have a discussion about what we want to do with it. But that's my 2 bits.
Not giving you a whole lot of direction here, but
I-
Councilman Joe.
I would, I'm sensitive to the fact that it's historic and Connie's, but I'd love to just see a plaque there like our original plan. And, I don't know if we move it, it just seems like there's going to be a lot of expense if we've got asbestos in there. I'm sensitive to the fact that it's somewhat historic, but just doesn't seem to fit to me on what we're trying to accomplish in the downtown. So personally, I'd like to see the money go into something like the mercantile, and then put something there that would honor the family and have something with the history there.
Anybody else got any? We were not given any direction here that I can see. Yeah, go ahead.
Shane, is there urgency with this? I mean, are we,
Um,
what kind of timeline are we on that we need to do something?
No, I just remember the discussion at the retreat was just trying to get the downtown kind of tuned up, I believe, by the anniversary coming up here in a couple of years. We did have the restroom budgeted for this year. So that's something that if you look at the plans, the restroom's tucked far away from the Ramada, the landscaping, and the house move. So we can move forward with the public restroom portion of that. That's in the budget for this year. And so we were just going to tie the demo to that project and do it all at once. But if we're going to move that structure, then we can get started on the restroom. We'll just need some direction on what to do if that structure does move. The reason why we're asking that is I believe the way that they're going to do the stem wall is they're going to have a stem wall on one side of the building, a center stem wall, because it kind of has a middle bearing point, and the third stem wall. And just for future plumbing and electrical, we just need to make sure that stem wall can accommodate if we're moving bathrooms or putting a kitchen in it for a small coffee shop, or if it's just going to be for offices with a single restroom, or we just need a little more direction on when we move that structure, what we need to plan for. Does that make sense?
How big is it?
It's 1,200 square feet. Yeah,
What's the size of our current museum right now?
it's bigger than that, I think. Yeah.
It's a
It's
little,
like 7,000.
a little less than 6, I think.
thought.
I was gonna say, move it over by the Reed House.
You know,
On the-
I know you're going to need direction on what to do with it, and I don't think you're going to get that tonight. But I really think I personally, and however you want to, if we need, I want to save it. I want to move it, and if they got to put a stem wall in for future use, tell them. Let's see what it's going to cost to do that.
That's part of the project. It's just when we put
Okay.
that middle stem wall through the middle of that building.
I don't know if future use. I don't know if we need. I mean, we can't predict that. I personally want to save it. I'd like to move it toward Huning, and what do you do with it? I think we have to discuss that. I know I talked to Morgan earlier about it too. It's like, good luck. I mean, there's a lot of things that we really want to do with it. Can we do with it? We don't know if it's going to cost us a whole lot of money to open it to the public or just have it for a meeting room. I don't know. Councilman Whipple.
I'm sorry, let me just,
I was going to ask, is there any sort of grant or anything, since it is historical? Can we apply for anything if there's not a huge urgency?
We haven't been able to apply for anything.
they've closed all grants for state historic preservation. It's
Right.
shut down.
It's not an
More
option.
grants.
Yeah,
What about CDBG? I mean, is that a possibility?
sure, if this would qualify.
Depending on what the reuse of the building is, there might be a possibility to use some CDBG funds there.
4,000.
Or, yeah. See if we can get 12 people in there.
Money like crazy for that crap.
So,
So Meredith, if I can just take a minute. So as part of the plan for that area, Shane mentioned the bathroom, but we also have a plan for a ramada. And if the desire is to move the house, that would be helpful if we know that that's the desire of the council, at least to move the house towards Huning, so we can plan for that ramada that's there. Because we have that in the budget this year, and that's kind of a little bit of the urgency is to get the bathroom and the ramada done and some of that landscaping done. We can probably just say, plan to move the house. We can talk about some other options on the plumbing and electrical and maybe some stubbing out, but at least to know that that's okay with the council to move it towards the Huning area. If not, I mean, I know some would say, let's remove it and just
and Councilman Judd, I appreciate that too, but I think like Councilman Adams just made a comment about some of the historical houses we have left in our community, and there's not many. And you have somebody that was born and raised here and raised in that house and dedicated pretty much her whole life to our community, and we have a possibility of saving that house. I think that, to me, I mean, I wasn't born and raised here, but it means a lot to me, and I appreciate, the idea of a plaque, but and that was our comment 3 or 4 months ago when we thought it was going to blow over. But once we had it looked at and we realized we can save it and we can move it and save it, me personally, I want to move it. So anybody else have?
I don't know, Shane, if you can pull up that diagram and map.
Yeah,
it
do you
just
have that?
shows-
It's there.
Yeah. So that's a rough location. Of course, the goal too, in moving that building to the east and closer to Huning, would be 15 or 10 feet off that property line. We'll meet setbacks and proper code and things. We'd like to avoid all the existing apple trees. Some of those apple trees are 100 years old. They're some of them are dying, but we're going to try to trim them in the spring. Rick's got a plan to trim them and see if we can salvage those. There's a pear tree in the front. We're going to leave all those in place and just move things around on the orchard.
So that won't be exact.
And then the discussion with the well is something else we need to decide if we'd like to just keep as a sightseeing well or improve that a little bit. That's right there, kind of on that right bottom corner of the existing structure. And we can show the ramada around slightly to avoid that. The idea was to do kind of a paver paths, grass and trees, a large ramada just open for events, birthdays, get-togethers, weekend events, whatever.
So we don't need any kind of motion, just a direction, right? Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, just some direction that you're okay with us moving it, at least to the south. That way we can plan for that ramada and try to work on that well and the bathroom and just kind of get some
Everybody
stuff there.
want to move it?
I would say if we're gonna move it, then I would want to have our grant writer figure out what uses it could be for CDBG money and bring us back options so that we can look at, if there is historical preservation or if it's to revitalize it. I know at one point when the original idea that we talked about, where the business incubator idea came from, was when we were talking about this specific building. And so I had just come back from a trip from Flagstaff, and they had their business incubator, and we kind of discussed this house in that context of redoing it into a business incubator or whatever it is. And that's how that kind of took off. And so I would want to see, direction to staff that what type of repurposing could we do, and how does that work in the CDBG realm? Because I know that it's already been designated as a slowly blighted area. We had a project earlier this year that we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. And so as we develop that list that we give to either the state or the federal government, we should look at.
It's a good idea.
Recommendation is that if we move it, we also look at it for whatever the possibility is that complies with CDBG options.
Good idea. So I think the majority, I believe, is to move it. No, Councilman Judd. You know what? We can't agree on everything. That's why
No,
I appreciate that too.
I would say
because
too, I completely agree with Vice Mayor. I appreciate everything she's done. I've had a front row from the time I was 16 to see what she's done for the community, and it's been phenomenal.
Right.
And at the same time, I'm the guy who's like, we should have tore down the city campus and built it again. So
Right.
I'm definitely conflicted because my natural tendency is to do what's in the best interest of the taxpayers, and do what's, makes sense. And in this case, I think that there might be options so that we can find grants to help fulfill both purposes.
Okay.
But I'm usually the guy who says tear it down. So.
So we won one vote over, lost one.
I don't know.
Okay, I think you got direction. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes.
All righty, next item on the agenda, summary of current events. John, do you got anything?
I don't have anything.
Nothing down there? Nothing? Happy New Year. I think it's awesome. Power of positive thinking. So let's start with snow. Man, I heard a report that, not that I care what other communities are doing, but Flagstaff's like 20 inches down on their snow. So we need lots of snow.
Is there any way we can, when our consultants for the sports complex come in, can we get them to wear a shirt that says not going to be budget neutral? Is that a possibility?
Yeah. Well, that's why.
Every time they come in, it's not budget neutral.
Well, that's why when you go to these meetings, you don't say anything, because if you say one word, there goes a million. So anyway, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a few quick items to report on. We've begun the process to prepare the city's fiscal year 2027 budget. We are holding a town hall budget meeting specifically for citizen input on Thursday, January 22nd at 6 p.m. here at the council chambers. And all budget meetings are open to the public. If you want a list of the meeting dates, you can check out our website at sholoaz.gov. And the Recreation Department is hosting their annual popular Daddy-Daughter Dance. It's on February 6th. Tickets can be purchased at the Sholo Family Aquatic Center. You can call 532-4130 for more information. And in Public Works projects, the city's contractor is working on the HVAC system this week at the City Campus Recreation Building. We anticipate being able to move into that building in about 2 weeks. I'm excited for that. And then the work is, everybody's going to be glad to hear this, finishing up on the Highway 260 sidewalk and walking path. Hopefully that should be finished up within the next week. No more shutdowns on the road there. And then Rachel did remind me that candidate packets for the council seats that are coming up in the election are available. So if anyone needs a candidate packet, they can contact Rachel Hall, our city clerk. That's all I have.
One more thing about the event center, since we're still on that, we will hold a public hearing or public open house probably next month to kind of show the design. But if you're here or you're watching and you have any input, I'm sure the city manager wouldn't mind a phone call or because we are in that phase and we want the community support. But we will have an open house where I don't know if we have a date yet. I know there's a couple tentative dates out there. Just keep an eye on our social media page or visit the website. But it'll be next month, another open house. Schedule of meetings?
So we have a special meeting tentatively scheduled for January 20th to hold interviews for the vacant council seat. Rachel will let you know kind of what time that meeting will start, but probably around somewhere between 5:30 on that date. And then just a reminder, we also have a budget study session on that date at 6:30.
Sounds good. All right. If I see no more business before this meeting, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, guys.